Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Hello? I felt reluctant to share this story because I was a bit embarrassed, but now that I'm over something so trivial, I figured y'all might enjoy it. A new grocery store opened up in our relatively small town early this summer. I'd literally only been there once for the grand opening before this story took place. It's halfway downtown, and I'm a rural resident who would much rather shop at a different location, which is literally the first store upon coming into town. Because of this, I had absolutely no recollection of the employee uniforms, or else I would have selected my clothes a touch differently. I walked in wearing black dress pants, but they were pretty worn along the bottom because everything is either slightly too long or way too short for me, and I never get around to hemming my pants, so they usually become questionable 5 or 6 months down the line. On top of this, I was wearing a black fleece jacket from my workplace, which had the company logo on the front. When I shop, I'm typically so focused on what I'm doing that I don't even glance at other people outside of a peripheral, like checking if we're going to be in each other's way. So onwards. I'm sizing up something I'm interested in and start doing math in my head with a little aid of hand gestures. It's kind of like pencil and paper math, the way I envision it, using the air to write. I know it's weird, but it works for me. While comparing my needs and wants versus my budget in the freezer foods department, I heard a small hey behind me. It sounded a bit far off, and since anyone who knows me knows to be loud or specifically call my name, I imagined it was none of my business. Hearing loss runs in my family, so I am basically 10 or less years off from needing hearing aids. Barring high-pitched noises, which can bring me to my knees. A slightly frustrated "excuse me" followed a few seconds later. I honestly thought at that moment, would you just help her? I don't want to hear her annoying tone. I was not in the best of moods, so a lot of minor things would set me off. Finally, the back of my jacket was being pulled. What in the world? I whipped around, shrugging off the hand that held me, and there was this woman somewhere in her 40s or so, about a half-foot taller than me. I end up staring in the wrong place. She was definitely dressed for summer, and after looking up, I'm 5'7", so she was fairly taller than me, and catching a death glare, she started spouting off about how rude I was for not paying attention, and that I should have even been reported for ogling at her chest. She was wearing a very revealing top. Oh boy, awkward. I can't recall exactly what she wanted. But the condescending tone pretty much made everything she said nothing more than static noise as my anger rose and rose. I finally interrupted her and said, "Look lady, out of work here, so leave me alone." I was about to walk away, but then she grabbed me, lifted me up by my jacket and pushed me up against the freezer door, lifting me about a foot so I was dangling. Now legitimately scared, the anger flowed out of me instantly. Holy Toledo, she's going to kill me. She leaned in and started barking about what a pathetic piece of trash I was, how I was going to be fired and charged with harassment, and that a loser like me was going to die alone because no one likes a fatty. I'm overweight but not grossly obese. Moreover, my general figure doesn't really change shape no matter how much weight I lose. Unexpectedly, she backed up and dropped me. I didn't quite catch myself, tripping and stumbling along the aisle, with my shoulder taking the brunt of it. I had enough sense to control how I fell. Lucky for me, she got scared because an employee driving a pallet came around the corner just as I was picking myself up off the floor. The employee asked if I was alright, fairly confused about what was going on. I pointed to the now fleeing entitled woman going around the opposite end of the aisle and told her that the woman had assaulted me and to call the police. She panicked and told me to stay there, then sprinted towards the front of the store. The freezer department is isolated at the farthest section of the store. I'm stubborn and disregarded staying there, making my way to the front. It took a few solid minutes, and along the way, I heard a lot of commotion. By the time I saw anything, the manager was standing in front of the exit, apparently having locked the automatic doors so they wouldn't open. The entitled woman was quacking all sorts of nonsense, Another customer saw me and rushed over to see if I was okay. Yet, this crazy lady just glared at me again, saying that I was faking it and that I was a disgusting pig trying to touch her. The manager spoke up and said, well, the police can look over the tapes to see for themselves. The blood drained out of that woman's face so fast everyone instantly knew she was full of it. About 15 minutes later, the police arrived and spent another half hour doing all the procedural stuff, asking questions, taking statements, and reviewing the tapes. They asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. They hauled her off into their car, and the manager gave me a $250 gift card. Definitely a win-win. For some background, I'm a 26-year-old man and my friend is 25 years old. We both live in the USA. I recently bought a 2014 red Dodge Challenger SRT8, and I live with my mom. She's the best. On with the story. I live in a small neighborhood where about 20% of the people own a muscle car, including me. One day my mom wanted me to go buy some food at the supermarket, and I just did that. But I didn't want to go alone, so I called my friend to see if he wanted to go with me, and he said yes. So I picked him up and headed to the supermarket, which is 2 miles away. When we got there, I found a parking spot and headed into the supermarket. We were there for about an hour, and when we were done, we both got to the car to put the groceries in. When we got to the car, we saw a woman and her son taking a look at my car. I thought nothing of it, assuming they were just checking it out. But man, I was wrong. When I opened the trunk to put the groceries in, I was interrupted by none other than the entitled mother, and the conversation went something like this. Excuse me, is this your car? My friend told her, yes, it's his car. And I added, do you need anything? Can my son drive it for a bit? What? No, why? At this point, the entitled mother started to raise her voice. Well, your son is not old enough to drive. No, he's old enough to drive. Now give me the keys. I told her, no, lady. Why would I give you my keys? Give me the keys. It's not your car. Give it to me or I will call the cops. I looked around and said, do it. My friend started laughing and the entitled mother actually called the cops. We waited for about 10 minutes for the cops to arrive. The whole time she was demanding the keys and saying her kid deserved the car more than I did. Finally, the cop arrived. What seems to be the problem here? I tried to talk, but the entitled mother cut me off. Officer, this man tried to steal my car. Arrest him. Is this true? No, officer, this is my car, I said, showing the key to the officer. No, arrest him, officer. He's lying. The other cop asked, do you have any proof of this? Yes, officer. I replied and pointed at the Tesla. If you didn't know, a Tesla is an electric car with a self-driving mode and cameras on every side of it, recording everything that happens. The cop was confused, so I explained what it was. We waited for the Tesla owner while Karen screamed the whole time. Eventually, the Tesla owner came and I asked him for the video. He was confused at first, but when he saw Karen, he knew what I was talking about and showed the video to the cop. Karen's face went white as the cop watched the video, and she ended up getting arrested for attempted theft. The whole time her kid looked very confused. Poor kid. The cops left with the kid and Karen. What a legend. So my friend and I just drove home laughing. My friend said, I will never forget that day. And honestly, I have no idea what happened to her next. This happened a couple of years ago. We were traveling from Tennessee to Florida a couple of days after New Year's Eve. We had stopped in Georgia because it had been snowing heavily, and it was taking longer than usual to drive through. We were praying as we drove through the turnpike. I'm not religious, but everyone was sliding through, and there were too many close calls to take a breath. It was so bad that we decided to stop at the Denny's connected to a hotel. I had a Cracker Barrel next door, and we walked in and found out that, although they did have electricity, many businesses had lost theirs. Only one cook, the manager, and a waitress were on shift, as they couldn't leave due to the icy and snowy conditions. There were about 20 of us in total in the restaurant. Everyone was hungry and hunkering down for what would be a few hours. We were told by the manager that there really wasn't much they could do for us at this point. A guy from the military volunteered to help put in basic breakfast orders as he had been a chef. Others helped in the kitchen or outside. although the manager couldn't have anyone in the kitchen due to health code violations. The actual staff took over in the kitchen while we took basic orders and helped feed each other. I'll never forget that day, definitely one to remember. I was at a store checking the prices of some clearance clothes at a scanner. I had literally just begun, only scanned one item, and had a stack more. An elderly lady came up behind me and softly said, "Excuse me." I whipped around with wide eyes because I have an issue with being touched. She hadn't touched me, I'm just hyper aware and didn't want to allow a chance. She asked if I could help her get a shirt down. I immediately thought of you all and said, "Sure, I can try. I'm not taller than you by much." I was confused if she thought I worked there. I was dressed like I could possibly be an employee, but I had been scanning a buggy full of clothes when she approached me. Typically, older folks know what that means. As we were walking to where she had pointed, she said there were poles with hooks against the wall for getting down the clothes that were higher up. I thought, okay, maybe she doesn't want to because she has a bad back and just can't bend that way. She said she had been waiting forever for somebody for a long time. When we arrived, she pointed at the shirt and then the hook. I suggested maybe I could try getting the shirt without the hook first, and I really try not to get stared down by the real employees. For anxiety purposes. I asked what size she wanted down, and she said large. I reached to try to look through the tags, hurried to find a large, and got it down on my tiptoes so she wouldn't strain to reach or feel a need to go out of her way to find it for me. As I handed her the shirt, I saw that her right arm was in a large blue cast from her knuckles to her upper arm. She had a broken arm. I asked if she wanted any of the other colors while I was there, and she declined. But we had a short, pleasant conversation about our clothing styles, those being about comfort over fashion, basically just not skin tight. Then we went our separate ways. I realized only just now, while typing this, that I had left my personal bag in the buggy under the clothes and the scanner. Facepalm. That was dumb of me, but I acted before I thought. I try to be kind to kind people and my consistency keeps me alive. The ironic part of the story of helping a shopper in a store that I don't work at is that as I walked with the elderly lady over to the shirt, I saw two actual employees gossiping to each other, having a good time within earshot. As I walked back to my buggy, the three of us made eye contact. They had been watching me and the elderly lady sneering at me as if I was the only one not doing my job. I just gave them a dead-eyed look of, "I just did your job and you sicken me," and did not break eye contact until both of them did. They promptly separated and began tidying the shelves and racks nearby when they saw I didn't go far and started scanning my stuff in their vicinity. Thank you so much for joining me today and listening to our story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories and content. Make sure to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Feel free to leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think and what stories you'd like to hear next. Until next time, keep dreaming, stay curious, and as always, keep that crown on. See you in the next video.